data is not just that one line of I added 20,000 followers in the last 3 months or something like that. So it's just about understanding how that data makes sense to your business and what you can do with that and take a decision forward. I think after my MBA in marketing, communications, and advertising, my mentors, professors, everyone thought that I have aptitude in writing and I should kind of be in the PR, field. And I did know a little bit because of subjects that we studied, and it was something that was interesting for me. So I jumped right into PR at that stage. This is more than 12 years ago. And I used to work at the agency side. So I had the experience of working with different clients, from lifestyle, which is the Taj Hotels, with Tanishq, with Titan I Plus, brands like this, to even something very, very tech like a Bosch. But, through those stories, press releases, press meets and everything, I kind of got a lot of insight into different kind of domains and understood that somewhere everything is about storytelling, about simplifying something and, putting it out there for the media to pick up or to be making it something interesting. And I kept developing my skills also at this whole thing. And I think that was the time when digital was just still building up. It was a lot more on newspapers and publications, things like that. And with time, when digital came up, especially social media, I totally jumped into that bandwagon and caught it pretty early on. I was the go-to person. So I built a lot of my strength in that zone. And ever since, I think my jobs after that were all into content creation for the digital medium. It went from copywriting on social to emails to blogs to, I think, even app notifications and SMS is something that I used to do at some point, a lot of content creation and distribution. That whole thing became a part of communications, which is what it is today for me. But yeah, I think I've always been interested in communications, more on the written format. I've written a lot of blogs. I used to do travelogues, I used to do different things like that. Very recently, I've even published my own book. So I've written a book for kids, basically, more on that stage. I have a little child, so I connect with that, and that's me in communications. Ever since my first few profiles with the PR agency, it was all about you're working with clients, right? You have to show them impact of your work. So ever since, we've been leaning on data literally to kind of prove our impact that we've created. You've got this many mentions. Hey, you were in the Times of India and it has so much of readership. And imagine 3 people in the house reading the paper. And, you do all of those calculations. It's a lot about proving that, hey, you worked. So for me, data was that, trying to tell them that, I've done my job and didn't bother from there next what happens. But I think with time, with me also learning a lot more, progressing my career, and now on the brand side of things, I've understood that data is a lot more than just proving a fact or something that you want to say. It's a lot more of, analyzing the data that comes about and seeing, hey, this data is here because of something that you did, and now you have an opportunity to do better than this. Okay, so if you're measuring followers on social, earlier it was just like, hey, I'm adding, 20,000 followers or whatever like that. But today it's more about what are these followers? Where are they coming from? What is their seniority? Are they engaging with you? Right? So these questions become important. See, I think we all started with Excel sheets at some time. It was a lot of manual stuff. Today I put up this post on LinkedIn versus I put something on Facebook, and what kind of engagement did this get, and something else. And then you compare and you see, if I post at a different time, what happens? So a lot of experiments happen, but we also calculate these things manually. But today there are a lot of tools that help us, especially on the social media side of things. Also a little bit on the PR, where it kind of gives you a share of voice. What is competition doing? How many times did they get a mention? Did this journalist write about competition more or you? Things like that has become a little more easier with tech. But I still feel a lot of this, if you do it, very, very granularly, you may have to still do it manually to figure out exactly what you're looking at. Has your little experiment worked or not? So we kind of definitely use this in our campaigns. We do rely on tools and, tech as much as possible. But when we're trying something new, we definitely make sure we still go back to sometimes Google Sheets and say, hey, this happened and this happened. So, let's kind of replicate this or do more on this side. So when I joined ChargeBee, this is late 2020 during the pandemic. There were a lot of webinars and online events and stuff, right? And it was almost a saturation at that stage. But we were trying to do an entire brand campaign around the Champions of Change. It was a very big campaign for the company. And we wanted to kind of make an impact to say that we are all going through change and we are kind of bringing together champions of change. We had amazing speakers, a lot of stuff, but there was a lot of saturation also in the market. But how are you going to get so many people to kind of come together in an event like this? And the good thing is we had done an event earlier to that. I was not part of the company then, but the only thing that was connecting me back to the event was data. What did they do last time? How many registrations came in? How many attendees were there? What were the campaigns that were run to bring these people in? So I had enough data with me to kind of almost predict what can happen next. So we made this event literally double of the previous event. The first event had 3,000, registrations, and this one we were aiming at 5. We reached 6,500 registrations. And again, when it came to attendees, we had a benchmark because we had data, we had measured it. We knew we had to better from there. We knew we had done just maybe, about 25 posts or something on social. So we knew that if we kind of increase that, maybe something else will change. And increase doesn't mean just numbers. Let's try formats. Let's do video. Let's do GIF. Let's bring speakers to do a little bit of video snippets. So it's just about knowing what was done and trying to replicate that to get our success plus improve upon that. I think data helped us a lot because the team was new, everything was new, and we totally leaned on data for that. I don't think we can pick on one that way, but overall, I think it's about moving the needle towards the direction that you want. This can be for anything, right? Like if you want to be known in the industry for something, say that becomes a keyword or that is a hashtag in the social media world. How much are you doing towards that? So one can be the number of articles we've written, the number of bylines that have come, number of times somebody's used that hashtag in the post, number of people following that hashtag. It could be multiple things that are working towards that needle that's going upwards. So when you look at it over time, you know that, hey, it's not one thing that you did or one small thing that moved it, but a couple of things that are actually doing consistently. And that's why the needle is moving upwards. We all know that we're doing a good job in that case. In my opinion, a mix of tools is what helps, but you have to find that right mix and not just have data all over the place. Communications is a very qualitative field. How much ever we are trying to measure things or see what is working, what is not, we have to agree and accept the fact that it's always going to keep changing and we have to get creative. We have to do different new things. Teams are evolving. The people who are joining this kind of thing come from different backgrounds. I mean, I have engineers in my team, but they are really great at communication, right? Which is something that you wouldn't have thought of before. So when teams like that are evolving, tech is evolving, we have to be open to make space for, tools and everything to tell us whether we're doing a good job or not. But we have to also kind of keep in mind that we have to give weightage to creativity. So if I had like a wish list of a tool that will help all of this, it would be something like that actually measures impact, but also gives weightage to creativity to say, hey, you've done an experiment and it's very different from what you've done before. And let's see how this goes up. And how do you consistently keep doing more and more of that? I think the Champions of Change is one of my marquee campaigns. It was not only for the event, we also had a podcast along with it. So every week we had new episodes coming, and for each of them, we had tried different things that we did. We also had a merchandise store where we sold and, even gave out coupons and everything for t-shirts and swag and bottles and different things like that. So it was basically a campaign that was like a 360 degrees, which has an event and speakers. You still feel like you've actually gone to an event and you can get a t-shirt off. You have access to stuff after the event through a podcast. We had an entire website that was built, very, very interactive, very interesting things happening there. And I think from a very brand communication level, this was one of the most exciting campaigns for me that I worked on in the recent past. It's important to have measurable goals, but we should also have space for some things that are beyond measuring. Like, you don't have to measure every little thing. Challenge the right side of the brain, have some aspirational goals to figure out what you can do beyond just the measurable goals. Another thing will be selective about the data that you present, especially to leadership, your bosses, because just because you have so much, if you give it all away, especially in not nice great formats, people will not make sense of it, and then they will just not understand what you're working towards. So analyze the data yourself, only pick and choose what makes sense, and then share it across. And I think the third main thing that I would say is something that I believe from my experience is, don't always look for data that's projecting you in the greatest of light, right? So don't shy away from something that is saying that you've not done a good job. Because if you present data like that, you know where you have to improve. And next time you'll have enough space to show you're improving and your own career trajectory. That's what has happened with my career. If on day one, data showed that I did amazing, I may not have moved up the ladder at all. I wouldn't have tried so many different things. So it's just that don't shy away from data that's not projecting you in the best of light today, because that itself is scope for improvement.